Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. If you missed it last night, Celtics take a 3-0 lead. And looks like it's done for the Mavericks. Not a whole lot going on. That's about it. So we're going to go to the Titan Number Hotline courtesy of Comfort Temp. And we're joined by our college football analyst, Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing well, and got good news that the Lindy's SEC edition is on the stands.
Who's on the cover?
Let's see.
Montrell Johnson?
Yep, it is. It is, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the national edition came out first. The SEC edition then comes out. So we're waiting on Phil Steele. His magazine went to the press, the final page on Friday. So it should start. It'll be out everywhere by the 4th of July, and we'll be out before them.
Yeah, for sure. Let me answer Barone here on YouTube, brought to you by Quality of Plumbing. He says, QBL was watching the 91 game against FSU. How angry were you about the illegal motion on the play that took back a passing touchdown and the next play, an interception by Buckley? Why was Rhett moving around in the backfield on that play? Florida State loved to blitz the A gaps, which are the two gaps to the right and the left of the center. And we prepared for it, that if we thought it was coming, that Rhett would step up a lot closer to the A gap, almost like directly behind the guard of the center to take the blow on right there at the line of scrimmage. And he was just moving. It happens. Things like that happen. But all right, Brent. So the magazines have come out. Some TV times have come out. I don't remember, and maybe I'm just losing my mind here, but have we made TV times so far in advance in the past few years?
We have never had what we have this year.
Okay, so I'm not losing my mind.
No, by no stretch of the imagination. We have never had in June this detail of TV times. So it is different. And there's so many things different about this year that are coming up, and certainly including with the playoff being extended from 4 to 12. But that is very unusual. And I mean, obviously for fans, it's a great idea because they can plan better, or at least I mean, Shane, even a OR helps whether it's going to be 3:30 or 7:30. So that does vary it down a little bit.
Yeah. Before we move on from the times of the games, we do have a Titan MR on the Titan MR text line. Text from Jay asking, Brent, are colleges going away, or the networks going away from having the quote big games at nighttime?
It depends. That's a good question. I mean, a lot of games you're still going to have in that prime time, just because it's such a big game. But I mean, you're actually seeing. I mean, obviously Fox has gotten away from that with their big noon game. Now, obviously, it's 100 degrees early on, but the thing they want to do is to have their, for lack of a better word, their game day edition, and then right after that have their big game of the week. So it is moving around a little bit. The 3:30 game, we're used to that with CBS, and now that may be a little bit different. That's coming up. So no, I think that's a good observation that you are seeing some of the bigger games a little bit earlier in the day.
Yeah, for sure. And Brent, I spoke about this yesterday because I was reading something, I think it was on Twitter. Um, the folks in Ole Miss and Mississippi State were not very happy with ABC moving the Egg Bowl to the Black Friday at 3:30. It's always been
Right.
played most of the time on Thanksgiving night, which I think
Yes.
us folks in the South love eating turkey and watching that. Um, but I saw something where Keith Carter, their athletic director, um, I, I guess it's with ABC, basically gave them kind of a favor that they could pick one road game and the time they
Right.
wanted it to kick off since the game
Yes.
was being moved to Black Friday. I don't know what that game is, but I looked at their schedule, Brent.
Hmm.
I got a feeling that they wanted to play at noon in Gainesville.
That they may have. That very well may have been it. We don't, and as Shane said, we don't know what game that is. But basically, Ole Miss wanted a favor, and they got it. And by doing that, the Egg Bowl has been moved from Thanksgiving night to a doubleheader on Black Friday at 3:30, and then the Georgia Tech game's on at 7:30. I think, as we mentioned last week, Black Friday games have doubled, if not tripled. So you'll see a tremendous amount of Black Friday games coming up this year.
Yeah. Robert on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says, Shane, what time is your favorite game to broadcast in the booth with Sean? Ooh, that's a great question.
It is a great
Uh,
question.
um, I always have heard it from media guys. They love the noon game because they have to write their stories and they have deadlines and all that. I get that now. I kind of like getting up and going and calling the game and then getting home if it's a home game and
Yep.
watching games at night. Now,
Sure.
the 3:30 game, I like because I have to do pregame radio and then I go do a little bit of tailgating with some buddies and then I go up to the box. So if it's a noon game, it's hard to do some tailgating and see people. But um, I don't really care, quite honestly. The road games now I do like at noon, so we can get
Oh
home,
yeah,
get
no
up and
doubt.
get out there. Barone says I don't like noon games outside of the Eastern Standard Time. 11 a.m. is too early for football, in his opinion. This isn't Pop Warner. Yeah, Gators got two 11 o'clocks in Austin, Texas, and Starkville, Mississippi. So
Man.
won't be a lot of fun. Brent, the all SEC teams for Athlons have come out for first teams on offense and defense, and no Gators.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Now, obviously, the one you want to see is the postseason instead of the preseason. That's where it makes a difference, frankly. But I mean, and certainly some of these guys. I mean, James Pierce of Tennessee is really good. Landon Jackson coming back for Arkansas. He is a game wrecker in a lot of ways. At his position, Nick Scorton at Texas A&M is a name to remember. He's going to be, I think, tremendous for them. But yet at the same time, Walter Nolan goes from A&M to Ole Miss with this too. Shane, did you see a lot of these names on offense and defense from Athlon? It still amazes me. These guys are transfers.
Mm-hmm.
So now Harold Perkins at LSU is not, and he deserves to be on there. Also, no surprise about Carson Beck at quarterback here, and Trevor Etienne, obviously at Georgia. Jarquez Hunter, I think, deserves that at Auburn. So does Luther Burden. I won't go into all of it, but LSU has got two of the better offensive linemen, Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks. LSU may have the best offensive line in the league, so that is really going to help them because because Shane and I both know they certainly don't have the best defense, do they, Shane?
No, at least they didn't last year. Andy's question for you on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says, Brent, were you surprised that Phil Steele has Montreal Johnson as first team All SEC and ETN as fourth team?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that will be. He will be questioning about that. Phil is in the radio mode now, so he's going to be doing a lot of radio now that the magazine is done. And I would be curious about his logic with that. Now, I give Phil credit. He doesn't do things just to write something down. I mean, he's usually got a reason for what he does. So that will be one of the ones that I will be very curious about to see where that goes. Listen, he may do, and I'm not exaggerating, I mean, he may do double-digit radio interviews a day over the next few weeks. I mean, he calls it radio season now. And the thing about it is, what's really impressive is when Phil does these radio interviews, I'm not even sure he has any notes. But what he's able, the biggest thing Phil Steele does that no one is able to do is he'll talk. I think he did this with Billy Napier. He'll talk to these coaches an hour about their roster. I mean, who in the world can do that now? So, so that will be, so that's an interesting question. I'll be again. Well, we'll listen to what his logic might be on that one.
Well, I'm going to chime in my thoughts on that. I think the Gator Nation does not realize how good a running back Montreal Johnson is, because most fans just look at the splash plays. They don't look at everything that on every down. And I have buddies that are scouts throughout the National Football League, and they think Montreal is a better running back for the next level than ETN is. We've talked about multiple times on here. Now, ETN is a great player. He's very talented. He makes great plays, but we all know he can't pass block. Now, he may turn into a great pass blocker at Georgia. I don't know, but I think people forget how good Montreal Johnson is just because of the splash plays that ETN had. That's just my 2 cents. That's just my 2 cents, and that's what a lot of NFL scouts have told me as well. Speaking of Phil Steele, Gary has a question on the Titan MR text line here, Brent. It says, Brent, are you surprised that Phil Steele has the Gators at number 19?
Well, he certainly has more respect for Florida than a lot of the others. I mean, Lindy's and Athlon has Florida in the 30s, which probably is no surprise. But the reality is, look, I think they're better. I mean, I'm with Shane on this. I think they're better than people give them credit for. I think they made some massive improvements in a lot of ways. I mean, in my notes that Shane and I share, we've got Florida ended up with the 7th overall recruiting class on 24/7 transfer in high school and the 5th overall transfer portal class. So, look, you get 2 top 10s in that situation, and that's rather impressive. Virtually 2 top 5s. That's rather impressive. You mentioned Montreal Johnson, Shane. I think Florida's running back room to me is undervalued. I think it's better.
So good. It's
better. Shane, I don't think people are going to realize that until we start the season.
Yeah, they you got Montreal, you got Webb, who played a little bit last year, true freshman. You got the other 2 freshmen coming in, and we got some other guys that are coming off injury that could help as well. Yeah, so we got a text here, Brent, before we jump into the SEC. Spencer on the Titan MR text line wants to know, Brent, your thoughts on Colorado. Can they win their conference? I'll answer that.
I'm going to say no.
No.
Now they'll be exciting, and they'll have a lot of publicity. But look, I just don't think you can. It'll be exciting. They'll have a lot of ups and downs, but they just don't have the base these other teams do, particularly from high school players that you build a program with. But look, that's a good question, because what are they going to do? See, they've got the skill position players who are good. The problem is, do they have the line of scrimmage that's going to hold up for the whole year? And I don't think they do. So, Shane, this may be another difficult year for that. Could they be better? Yes, but I think they're still maybe around 500 at the best.
Yeah, at best. I think they're in the Big 12 now. I don't know what conference they're in, but I think they're in the Big 12. But obviously, Texas and OU are no longer in it, so it may help. But look out for game one, because they got the Bison rolling into town. North Dakota State will run the power right down their throat, in my opinion.
It
will. Let's see here. David says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plum. We all think the Gators are better. Problem is, will it translate on the field and record? I think it will. Coach Spurrier predicts the Gators, and this is all predictions. He predicted them to win 8 games this year. As I look at the schedule, I think there's only 2 teams that you can just say, I don't know if we have a chance of winning the game unless the ball really bounces our way. And to me, that's Georgia and Texas. I think everything else is winnable. I really do. Not saying we're going to win them, but nobody else blows me away. But I think Texas and Georgia are clearly better than anybody else on our schedule. Cliff says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, do you think Colorado would get as much publicity as they do if Deion wasn't the coach? Absolutely not. No. I mean, Colorado has been – nobody's paid attention to the Buffaloes in probably 20 years. Mm-hmm. So we just got a text here. Oh, the U.S. Open has started, folks. And I just got a text here from I guess a fan that loves Tiger. Says Tiger's 1 under after 2. Yeah, he started on the back on the par 5 is number 10. I think everybody's birdieing that hole. So we'll see. I don't think he'll make the cut. Not rooting against him, but I hope there's carnage today. I hope I saw where somebody on the Golf Channel picked the winner to be like 5 under and only like 3 other players to be like a total of 4 players to be under par for the tournament. I hope that's the case. That would be outstanding. Yeah, I like to see them struggle, Brent. We have a question here, Brent, from Barone. He says, this is on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Brent, what are your 3 favorite stadiums to be at on game day? Not in the SEC, but you probably don't really go to any other stadiums, do you?
Well, not a whole lot. No, just because of what I do and have been in the SEC for so long. I mean, I've been in the Rose Bowl, and I appreciated the tradition. I mean, let's be honest, the Rose Bowl is an old stadium and needs a lot of work, but still, you can't help but appreciate being there. But yeah, most of my time has been with the SEC, and I've said this forever. When Florida is playing well, and it's at night, there's absolutely nothing like it. And I remember leaving the Tennessee game last year, sitting in the press box, which is an open window. It's an open press box. They don't have windows, but my ears were ringing. I don't know if you get into that, Shane, because y'all were in the booth, but when you're sitting there, I mean, it really took me until I got home until I could hear, which is if you're a football fan or media, you like stuff like that, but there's still nothing like that. But that is a good question. I really would. I've got friends who would go to a different football game every year outside the SEC just to get a taste of what that's like. I need to do more of that, and I hope I can in the future.
Yeah, we have the headsets on, so we don't hear all that the outside noise because we have to hear each other talk. But taking the Swamp out of it, my favorite venues And like I said, I've only pretty much been in the Southeastern Conference. I don't think there's anything like Tiger Stadium at LSU,
Right.
and I think Neyland Stadium is awesome as well.
Hmm.
Um, I think Auburn's got a great venue. I think Alabama does too. I haven't been there enough. I only played there. I went back to Alabama, Florida. Can't remember what year that was for a game, but um, Tiger Stadium on a Saturday night, there's really nothing like it.
Yeah.
Everybody was asked about Cam Carroll, the Tulane transfer that had the devastating knee injury, leg injury, whatever. I do not know his status. He did not participate in the screen. I'll try to get some information for you guys on that. Silverback Concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it, we stand by. We got Brent Beaird, a college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter, on the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Brent, Alabama. Let's start going around the league a little bit. Alabama, right now is kind of a dead period, so to speak. There's still visits and verbal commitments, things of that nature. What's going on in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, and they've had a lot of both of them. Chuck McDonald from Mater D in California is committed to Alabama. He's a four-star cornerback. They've also got Michael Carroll, who's a four-star offensive lineman. Maul Waldrop, who is committed to Alabama too. He's from Phoenix City, Alabama. That's near Auburn, so that's a little bit of a surprise. Kalen DeBoer, the Alabama coach, talked about Ty Simpson and how much he appreciated him staying with the team. Ty Simpson's a backup quarterback to Jalen Milroe, and he's really improved. He's matured a lot and got a whole lot better with his passing game. So if anything happens to Milroe for a few plays or a game or two, Simpson could come in and look, Shane. I've always agreed with Shane on this. We're at the point now, particularly with the playoffs expanding, to where depth is so critical because obviously you're going to play 12. If you're in the championship game, that's 13, and then you're going to play. And look, I know everybody's not going to win the national championship, but reality is they're just going to play more games. And because of that, the more depth you can develop during the year, I think the better that's going to be. So I know a lot of coaches are in the NFL model, but Shane, developing depth this year and looking forward is going to be more important than ever.
Yeah, for sure. And I forgot too here. Kalen DeBoer has been very successful everywhere he's been.
Yes.
He's 104-12 is his record as a head coach, which is damn good no matter where you're coaching.
Yeah.
But boy, it's going to be interesting to see how Alabama does.
It is.
Because we talked about the Nick Saban factor. I think it was a couple of weeks ago on the program. When Alabama ran out of the tunnel, they were already up 7-0 most of the time, before the game even started. So it not a fear factor, but just that mystique of the crimson helmet, kind of wore on players. Reggie says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, he's heard that Cam Carroll has some nerve damage, so he may not be back. I'll need to check that out. I hate to hear that, but it was a devastating. I think that was during a scrimmage last year, and I was there and I saw it. I was like, whoa, it was nasty. All right, the Florida Gators picked up a couple of commitments.
Yeah, they have. Nashon Montgomery, four-star wide receiver. Well, let me say that they haven't picked him up yet. There's a prediction from On3 that they very well may get him. So we'll leave that as the uncommitted for now. Got a punter, Hayden Craig, who is a lefty, Shane. How about that? He's a lefty.
Which can cause problems for the punt returners.
Good point. Shane, is there just a different spin on the ball?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's the different spin because you don't, it's just like sometimes people have trouble catching a left-hander's ball because it spins the other way.
Right.
The receivers do. And it's the same way with a punter. You just don't see it often enough. You can practice it all you want, but you can ask anybody that returns punts. It's a different deal if that ball's coming off a left-footed punter.
It is. And by the way, 8 Gators made Phil Steele's preseason All-SEC team. So he certainly shows some respect for the roster. Alabama has a commit, Miles Johnson, that it also mentions that Florida is one of his top schools. So that is something to keep in mind, too, with that. Phil Steele has, by the way, Florida's 2 kickers. Well, it's long snapper Rocco Underwood, and then Crawshaw, the punter, on his preseason All-American team. So that's a nice deal there. Speaking of nice deals, I know you talked about this, but Graham Mertz's NIL deal is not too shabby, is it, Shane?
No, I got him a little Mercedes. I'm not a Mercedes kind of guy, but he's doing some commercials, so good for him. And that's what it's all about. That is what NIL is about, right there.
Yes, yes.
What's going on up in Athens with the Dogs?
They've got a commitment from Christian Garrett, 4-star defensive lineman. Also, Palin Taylor, a wide receiver, is committed to Georgia. One of the better wide receivers anywhere, and also a tight end, Elias Williams, 5-star tight end, and says he is staying with Georgia, 6'4", 240. So the Dogs continue to bring in talent without a doubt.
Yeah, kidding, you ain't kidding. LSU, any news coming out of Baton Rouge?
Yeah. Have you seen this yet, Shane? You remember John Emery, the running back? He's been at LSU. He was going to transfer to UCLA, and now he's back with LSU. I mean, he's got over 1,000 career yards, 14 touchdowns. He's played in 37 games. But this is a guy that he's either been injured or there have been academic issues or something of that effect. So, but he's back with the team for now, and hopefully that will help him as it goes. So I think they could be very good. Again, offensively, the defense is going to be the issue for LSU, but Blake Baker, who came over from Missouri, is going to help them, and they've done a lot of work on the defensive side of the ball, but they still have a long way to go on defense.
Yeah, before we move on, I meant to bring this up. I saw where Phil Steele posted his rankings. I'm going to give you real briefly the SEC rankings. He's got Georgia at 1, Texas at 4, Bama at 6, Oklahoma at 7, Ole Miss 9, A&M at 15, the Gators at 19, LSU at 20. And let's see who else. He's got Missouri, who a lot of people have ranked high. Phil Steele has them at 22. He's got the Vols at 26, South Carolina at 27. So interesting because, Phil Steele, he probably puts more research into this stuff than anybody. Not that he's always right, but to have the Gators ranked ahead of LSU and a lot of these other teams, kind of interesting.
Well, the interesting thing there to me is the Tennessee. I mean, you've got a lot of people who think with Nico, the quarterback, that they're going to be great, but I'm not sure I'm in that camp yet. I do think they've got some defensive issues with that. So here's how you need to look at that now. What's a little bit different is I think we've got 12 teams to go in the playoffs. If you're in the top 20, I think what that says is, and I think this is fair, Shane, is that you've got a shot to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you get beyond 25, it certainly would decrease. And with Tennessee closer to 30 than they are 20, and Phil Steele, I think that's kind of what he's saying.
Yeah. The Missouri Tigers had a tremendous year last year, going 11-2, and a lot of people think they have a chance to be a little bit better this year. I think their schedule's somewhat weak, if you can say that.
It is.
What's going on in Columbia?
Well, Brady Cook's coming back at quarterback. He's one of the better ones. Luther Burden, their wide receiver, makes anybody look better. And he is really good. They do have other receivers, transfers Marcus Carroll from Georgia State and Nate Knoll from Appalachian State. Well, matter of fact, those guys are battling for tailback. To make that clarification there, Cody Schrader is gone. He was a running back last year. That was so good. They are going to stay with a 4-2-5 scheme, even though Blake Baker has left. They've got some transfers: Corey Flack from Miami, Darius Smith from Georgia. Look like they could play quickly. Got a Clemson transfer. Torino Pride is his name, and he's battling for a job. So I still think they could be good, but Shane's point's a good one. They've got a very, very easy beginning of the schedule, which will help them. It gets harder as the season goes on, obviously, when you get into SEC play. But Missouri and Ole Miss have two of the easier schedules, and both those teams have a real shot, don't they, Shane, of being undefeated at the end of September.
They do. Oklahoma, a lot of our fans need to get familiar with a lot of their players. Of course, their head coach is Brent Venables. What can you tell us about the Sooners?
Jackson Arnold, I'm curious if you've seen him, what you think of him. Arnold.
He was very, very highly touted. Got thrown into the fire a little bit last year. Big, strong arm guy. I think he'll be a little bit better this year. I just need to see a little bit more. I mean, we know he's talented. Just got to see him produce.
Yes, I agree with that. And I think most people think Texas would do a lot better than Oklahoma. And there's some merit to that. They've just got a more experienced roster, and Sarkisian's had more time in Austin than situation at Oklahoma. Pittsburgh transfer Deion Burks had 175 yards in the spring game. Not saying he'll be that good in the fall, but he is a Purdue transfer. They've got on the offensive line, Michael Parkin comes over from Southern Cal.
He actually, Brent, he's a former Gator.
He is. That's right.
He left here, transferred to USC. You know who his father-in-law is? Tony Baselli. Tony Baselli. He married Tony Baselli's daughter.
He is. Yeah, that's right. Wow. And they also added SMU center Branson Hickman. So they needed to beef up that offensive line. They have done that. Boy, oh boy, they've got road games at Auburn, Ole Miss, Missouri, and LSU. And then Tennessee, Texas, and Dallas, of course, and Alabama with the home schedule, too. They've got one of their wide receivers, Deion Burks, has a criminal misdemeanor, had a June 1st arrest for DUI and speeding, so they will deal with him over the next few weeks.
Hunter says on Facebook Live he's about to fly out to Omaha from Panama City. Go Gators.
My.
Safe
Absolutely.
trip. Have a good time. Don't do too many Jello shots. Speaking of the Sooners, I'm anxious to see because, Oklahoma, before Brent Venables took over, it was offense.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, Jeff Lebby was their offensive coordinator under Venables. He's now the head coach at Mississippi State. I don't even know who OU replaced him with. So it'll be interesting to see if this is a first-time guy calling plays or what. I need to look into that and see who's calling ball plays for Oklahoma. The Rebels up in Oxford, what can you tell us about them?
They have basically got as much excitement for them right now, I think, and I'm curious with your ties to Mississippi, if you're hearing the same thing. There's probably as much excitement right now for Ole Miss as I've ever heard. Everybody thinks they're going to be a playoff team. I get it. Jackson Dart comes back, but where they're going to be better is defensively. Now, Princely left Florida, and that's where he is. Walter Nolan left A&M. That's where he is. And they also have got receiver Antoine Wells from South Carolina is there too. I think they'll be okay at running back. Logan Diggs is there. Henry Parrish, who started his career at Ole Miss and came back to help. So look, Shane for right now. You will hear more preseason hype for Ole Miss than I think we've ever heard before.
Yeah, I mean, my buddies are very excited, obviously, with all my Ole Miss ties. Here's my only concerns with Ole Miss. Buck says Ole Miss is probably going to win the league. I do not see that happening. Look, I think Lane Kiffin is as good a football coach as anybody in America. He does some crazy stuff at times during a game that just drives me nuts.
He does.
But there's two things to his team this year. They've brought in more transfers than anybody in America.
Yeah, right.
That could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only thing that can be good out of this is Lane has kind of done this as the head coach of the Raiders because it's NFL free agency. So he's used to bringing new pieces to the puzzle every year. Okay. He probably, and he's kind of a little not tied up like a lot of head football coaches. He kind of lets his players be like pros, so to speak. So that could be a good thing for the Rebels. Or if you got all these new players coming in there, it could be a bad thing, if that makes any sense to anyone. So,
sure it does.
But here's the other thing. They have got to beat somebody that's better than them. That's the problem, is they're not getting over the hump, so to speak.
No.
And I still don't think they're going to do it this year.
Yeah. And look, you've got Pete Golding is in his second year as the coordinator, so that will help them. He comes over from Alabama. They've just got to get better on defense. That's the main thing for them. I looked up the Oklahoma offensive coordinator. His name is Seth Luttrell.
Oh, okay. He's in that Mike Leach coaching tree. He's been around, so he has calls plays.
Yeah.
Greg asked, is Ole Miss going to beat Georgia or Alabama? I do not think they play Alabama this year. I know they play Georgia.
They don't. They do play Georgia, yes.
And I know they play Oklahoma, but their SEC schedule, when you say it's not that hard, that's kind of silly because the whole damn league is good, but
really
it's not as difficult. I don't have it in front of me. All right, we mentioned earlier the Tennessee Vols. I think they're going to be better on offense because of Nico, but I don't put them as an elite team, and I think the Gators have a good chance of going to Knoxville and winning. I may be crazy, but Tennessee has not blown me away.
No, now they do. They are impressive offensively. They've got Chris Brazel from Tulane. He's a transfer. Mike Matthews is a freshman they like. Now, Squirrel White and Brew McCoy, who came from USC, they are still there. Now, they've got a defensive line that is probably the strength of the defense. James Pierce, who is an edge rusher, is as good as anybody in the league. They've got to rebuild their secondary. They've got an early non-conference game against NC State. They go to Oklahoma. Obviously, Josh Heupel has ties to Oklahoma, so that will be interesting. They also go to Georgia. Alabama's at home. So, as Shane said, it's a tough schedule. They got a commitment from edge rusher Jaden Lofton. He's 6'4", 250 from New Jersey. So, a little pickup for Tennessee. So, Shane, I agree with that. Really good offense, but the question marks again are on defense.
Yeah, Tim on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, says NIL in Florida high schools pass. Kids will make more than their high school coaches. It's very true. I would say even before the NIL, a lot of kids were making more money than their coaches.
Yeah.
If you had a summer job, you are making more than your high school football coach makes with his stipend in the state of Florida.
Yeah,
especially in Alachua County.
That's right.
County, the head coach makes about $3,500 to be a head football coach in Alachua County. Think about that, people. And I'm talking, this is year round. We tried to break it down one time, and it came out to be like 4 cents an hour.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and now what's new with that is there is legislation that is supposed to increase the stipend. Now, look, they're not all getting rich. They're not all making six figures and getting a truck like they do in some other states. But if this passes, it will help them. But Shane is right. The supplement for high school coaches in the state of Florida actually is embarrassing.
It's worse than an embarrassment, and like I've said it multiple times with my business, my job that I work for. I have a lot of schools in Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
And if my kid was in like the 6th grade right now, we'd be moving so he could experience what those kids
Right.
go through. And those coaches all make 6 figures, hardly teach a class. And as you said, they
That's
get
right.
houses, they get trucks, they get everything. So,
Yes. Yes.
state of Florida so far behind. All right, Brent, before we get you out of here, give me some updates of what's going on in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Well, we're still dealing with the FSU situation. My understanding is they're either in mediation or they're close, and which means they would be basically trying to decide on how they're going to divide up the money. And what they need to do is give FSU a break and then take, look, just go with, the number we've heard is like $550 million to get out. Well, just cut that in half, and have the call. And if I was the ACC, take $250 million, and let FSU go. Frankly, that would help. One of the more interesting things I've heard over the last few days is, well, who would replace FSU? And one of the real candidates for that I've heard is South Florida, USF, which is pretty fascinating. They're updating their facilities like some of the others have, and you may hear them as a possibility. The question comes up about Miami leaving the conference and going somewhere else. What I've heard and read about this is that may not happen anytime soon. They're just not sure how interested Fox Sports is and the Big Ten presidents. But again, I still think the SEC expands at some point too. So that's going to be interesting to hear that. Also, I've got a nugget here, Shane, that I think is interesting as far as the ACC. This is about NC State. NC State won 9 football games this year. They made the men and women's Final Four in basketball, and they're now in the College World Series. Would you say that's a pretty good athletic year for NC State?
Yeah, NC State's football program kind of flies under the radar. Dave Doran has done a tremendous job. It seems like they win 8, 9, 10 games every year.
They do. And look, Tennessee needs to be wary. As we mentioned, Tennessee plays them early in the season on opening weekend, and I think that game's in Charlotte, which obviously is not far from Knoxville, but still, Shane, that could be a dangerous game for the Vols.
No doubt. All right, Brent, one more question here on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Before we get out of here, Barone says, does Brent think Eli Drinkwitz is a head coach who can play for national titles if he took over a top-level program? Or is he more like a Mullen who can win at lower-level programs like at Mississippi State?
I mean, he's got a little bit of both in him. I mean, they are better. There's no question about that. I mean, when you're 11-2 like they were last year, including a win over Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, I mean, that's pretty impressive stuff. Now, let's be honest, though, to his point, the question about 3 years ago, they're about ready to show him the door. And then they gave him an extension and a raise. So it was good that they hung with him. He's a pretty refreshing guy. He's not your typical coach in a lot of ways. He's pretty loose and free oftentimes in the media, and he's pretty funny too. But they're doing something right to get that much talent over there. And look, you also to the question, you're going to see his name, and you have a little bit already be mentioned in some, well, if I can use the word bigger job, or maybe more high profile jobs, when I want to say it. He is improving, and he's getting better. He's got a big contract. He's doing good things at Missouri, and yeah, I could see him being consistent enough to where he may get a higher profile job somewhere in the future.
Yeah, but Missouri apparently has money. Hell, they may get, I don't even know what he's making now, but they could give him $7 or $8 million to stay there easily.
Yeah, they probably could.
Brent, good stuff as always, my friend. Have a great weekend. Have a happy Father's Day, and we'll talk to you next week.
Same to you, brother. Take care. Always enjoy it.
That's Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. Join us on the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. New sponsor, Servpro Painters of Gainesville, is the area's leader in painting excellence and proud partner of the Florida Gators, offering professional painting services for homes and businesses, plus cabinet refinishing and carpentry repairs. Visit Servpro.com for a free estimate. Take a quick time out, come back. I got a bunch of texts and stuff I want to try to get to before we get out of here. You're watching and listening to PodUp Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union.
Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise.
Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Our gridiron sponsors are UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker Sporting Goods. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Ruse Ogre State Farm Office is a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visitogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Some text here on the Titan MR text line. This is from Jared. He says, QB, why didn't you go to Ole Miss since you love them so much? Okay, so let's start back, Jared. I grew up in Mississippi. My dad played at Ole Miss, played football at Ole Miss. My mom was a cheerleader at Ole Miss, so I grew up going to Ole Miss games every Saturday, no matter where they played. They kind of took it for granted that I would go there. Offensively, I didn't like what they did when I was coming out of high school. And kind of similar in a way how Peyton didn't really want to go there either. I wanted to leave the state. That was one thing. So it came down to my choices came down between Florida State, and LSU. But I do love the Rebels. It's a great place. But that's why I didn't go there. Another text on the Titan MR text line from Robert. Shane, if you were the coach for the Gators and ETN was still on the team, who would you start at running back? I would start Montrell Johnson. I think Montrell Johnson is a fabulous all-around tailback. I would enter ETN on different packages, different plays that I design. But I think Montrell is clearly the best running back. Andy says on Facebook Live, how big a deal, team distractions, Aaron Rodgers not attending the Jets mandatory 3-day mini camp. I'm not sure why he's not there. I haven't heard, but it's not that big a deal. Players miss that stuff all the time. Obviously, it's not a good look if he's your starting quarterback. But I'm not sure. Maybe he's excused for why he's missing. I don't really know. Cameron says Shane went to Florida for the massive NIL deal I got. No doubt. It was huge, 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 huge. All right. I keep getting all these texts. I don't have time to read them all right now. I got to get to this day in sports, which is brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life. Campus USA Credit Union. On this day, 2023 at the Stanley Cup Finals, T-Mobile Arena in Vegas, the Golden Knights rout the Florida Panthers. Well, I forgot the Panthers played last year for the Stanley Cup. The Golden Knights won their first title in only their 6th year in the National Hockey League. And you're looking at the Florida Panthers trying to go up 3-0 tonight and win would it be their first? I don't know if the Panthers have won. I know the Lightning have. I'm not sure if the Panthers have won a Stanley Cup. So that's what you got tonight. College World Series starts tomorrow. Gators will be playing Saturday. Tomorrow will be JC, and we'll have Matt Laporta, who is currently your all-time home run leader for the Gators. He's going to be heading out to Omaha tomorrow with his family, and he said he would if everything goes according to plan, he's going to join the program. So get your Matt Laporta questions ready for him. Live a healthier lifestyle with our bold, flavorful smoothies and our amazing food, Tropical Smoothie. When you eat better, you feel better. Again, the Gators Saturday at 7:30 against the Aggies. And Andy's question on Facebook Live brought to you by Mel Law. What do you think about the 1983 NC State basketball team suing the NCAA for using their NIL over the years? Could Doug Flutie be next? Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Yeah, here's what I don't understand. They talked about this whole NIL deal going back to, was it 2016 and paying the players? How do they determine what to pay them? So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of lawsuits, guys in their 2000s wanting to sue. So we'll see how all that turns out. But let's see who's winning or who's leading the U.S. Open, which is going to distract me all day long. Oh, Ludwig Oberg is 2 under, leading through 3 holes. Let's see what Tiger did. Tiger's still at 1 under through 4. Good for him. So it should be a lot of fun. As I mentioned earlier, someone on the Golf Channel, I can't remember, they thought the winning score would be around 6, 7 under, and only about 5 players will be under par. That's my kind of tournament. So hopefully it works out. Hope you enjoyed today's program. Again, tomorrow we'll have JC, and it should be Matt Laporta talking a little college baseball, Gator baseball. Have a great day, folks. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.